Hi, ladies. Welcome to the podcast. I would love to
Hi.
kind of, hi. I would love to get to know you guys a bit first. Usually, or oftentimes on the podcast, through my own spiritual community and groups and things like that, we have people that I've met along the way. But this is my first time meeting you guys. So let's start with Miriam. Can you tell us about yourself and what you do?
Sure. My name's Maryam. I'm a psychic medium, medical intuitive, and I've been doing this for over 25 years.
Amazing. Okay. And Meg.
Meg Harrell. I am a registered nurse. I have 16 years of clinical experience, and I have a passion for uncovering what traditional medicine sometimes misses.
Yeah, I love that. I love the idea of like medical mysteries and like mysteries are so popular now. People like crime mysteries, but then I'm glad we're not covering crime today and we're covering something that's more positive and uplifting, helping people restore their health and well-being, but from sort of a mystical perspective, which of course, Beyond the Illusion is all about that, beyond what we normally look to and see. So, how did you two come to know each other?
You want me to take that one?
Great. Yeah, go ahead.
It sort of was magical in the sense that I was producing a show called Myth or Mystery, a paranormal show. And one of the producers and researchers came across Meg's haunted hospital segments on TikTok. And so we had her on the show, and I have been looking for someone to, in the medical field, to collaborate with for a long time. Obviously, it's not easy to find people that are willing to work with a psychic. And I just took a shot with her and thought her energy was really open and easy. So I thought maybe she'd be willing to work with me, and she was.
Wow. And how was that? So, I imagine that it's evolved. How long has that been now that you guys have been working together?
For a year. How long,
Hmm.
Miriam?
Yeah, over a year, not long.
Yeah. So, how has that evolved over time?
I think with each patient that we encounter in each little case that we work together on, it evolves a little bit and we kind of
Mm.
see how much we can both contribute. And it's been really exciting to see it from the very first case that we worked
Hmm.
together on to the ones just recently. I feel like it gets better and better.
Agreed.
Cool. So, walk us through the process. How does this go? Somebody comes to you as a case. What happens next?
Yeah, so they typically contact me. So I have been getting these kinds of messages and emails for years as I teach online and tell medical stories. So people will come to me with not necessarily a misdiagnosis, but just an unseen diagnosis. I have these symptoms. I go to my practitioner. They tell me there's nothing obviously wrong with me, or they'll give me a procedure, medication, and it's not working. My symptoms are still there. No one can figure me out. They come to me and I say, okay, well, let's figure this out. Let's put together what you're currently experiencing and what, you know, diagnoses or things that we've been through so far, what scans we've done, and then I'll sort of create a very condensed triage story. This is what's happening to you. Then we come to Miriam, and the patient will literally just give her a very small snippet. I feel this here. I'm experiencing this symptom. This is how it's interfering with my day to day. And then Miriam takes over and she will, not in necessarily medical terms, but as much as she can describe, tell us what she sees and what could be going wrong. I take that and I translate it into medical terms. Okay, where she's pointing is your liver or your pancreas. And when she says leaking, she's probably talking about the duct that connects to the small intestine, things like that. And then, based on what we need to further investigate, I'll tell the patient, you need to ask your practitioner for these specific labs or this specific type of scan to this area. Then they'll go to their practitioner and say, I want this, I'm looking for this. And they'll order that. And typically, we will help them figure out what's wrong and then also change their life and stop those symptoms.
That's amazing. This is so cool. Like, I love just recently we had an episode with a homeopathy practitioner. I don't even know the term, homeopathy practitioners. And they were talking about the future in their practices and how they're using intuitive practices to inform them moving forward. And I got really excited about that. I'm just like thinking, yeah, we're in a time of transformation and change, and so many more people are opening to alternative practices for wellness and for spiritual practices, and how everything is holistic and connected, part of the oneness, body, mind, emotion, spirit. And so it's cool to hear, even from a more allopathic medicine angle, that there are these possibilities. I'm curious, do you know of other people? Are you guys like really at the forefront of this? Is there, or have you found other people that are doing something similar? And what do you think might be the future for this kind of work?
I haven't found any. I would love to, but I haven't found anybody who's
Mhm.
exactly doing this, because a lot of the treatment or suggestions that we offer isn't always go get this medication, go get this scan or something like that. Miriam will say, you need to heal this particular wound, or did this happen in your childhood and it's coming at it from every angle? How can we heal you physically and spiritually? I
Mhm.
haven't seen it done anywhere else, at least in my medical circle. I don't know anyone else who's doing it.
Yeah, I agree.
What do you think about the future? Like with the homeopathy practitioners, they've created this school of intuitive homeopathy, and they're teaching other homeopathy practitioners to work with dreams and to awaken their intuitive abilities. And I'm curious, I don't know if I'm always forward thinking, like, have you thought of creating a school or a training program that could kind of spread this for other, because you guys are limited to being human and having X amount of hours and this X amount of energy. And yet there are probably so many people all over the world that are going to want this model moving forward.
The abilities are endless. I don't know, a course, a class, adding to medical school or nursing school. I don't know. That's a really cool idea.
Planting the seeds right now.
You are. I think it comes down to basically those that work in a more logical fashion to be open to it first. And I think it also requires those that are like me or work in more natural types of healing to be open to medicine and all that it has to offer. Because I think on both sides of the spectrum, there can be people that are anti one or the other. And that's not going to get us anywhere. And medicine is imperative, and science is imperative, and doctors are imperative. And so are psychics and mediums, and really everybody who has because we all carry psychic skill sets. It's not like I have something you all don't have, but the way I express it is different from others. So more of us coming forward and taking ownership of our psychic skill sets instead of, is it real? Is it happening? Is this really? And just take ownership and use it to, the more of us that are using this skill set, the more the medical community, I think, will become more comfortable with it as it becomes, if and when it becomes more mainstream, and then we can work together.
I absolutely think it's going to become more mainstream in our lifetime. I was just thinking, we had this guest, Amy Adler, the financial realm, talking about how hard it is wanting to teach people to utilize astrology and numerology and intuitive things in the financial realm and revolutionize that, and how hard. I would think that would be a much more challenging industry to revolutionize. Whereas at least in health and wellness, there's a lot you could work with naturopaths and herbalists, and there's a lot more like alternative healers that are open to spirituality and intuition and things like that.
I think that COVID was a great door opener. Let me rephrase that. For the positive aspects of COVID, obviously there's a lot of dark negative aspects to it. But one of the flip sides to it is, it's because doctors don't yet have answers for long COVID. I suffer from long COVID. So for those that suffer from long COVID, you're forced to find another way of healing until medicine catches up. And For me, all that did was continue to balance that, utilizing my medical doctors to make sure that everything's okay. And I'm still having symptoms, but they're not big, scary. It's not something big and scary. It sounds like it's just long COVID. And so then I moved to alternative therapies to manage the symptoms. So I think COVID is, and I think a lot of people are doing that and have done that. I by no means think I'm the only person that's done that. And a lot of people did it out of just being forced to do it because there's nothing else. And a lot of times that's how change happens, right? We're forced to look in a different direction.
Absolutely. I would love to hear, since this is a spiritual podcast, I would love to hear, Miriam, first, your spiritual journey. When did you know you were a medium? When did these gifts become really accessible? And when did you start to offer them professionally?
I don't remember ever not having them. So we are all born with them. Some of us, we just are born with heightened skill sets. And so my skill sets were just heightened, and my mom really encouraged them in me. And I've just always used them. And I think I must have started charging technically in my 20s, but I was always using it. So, yeah, I mean, I think utilizing the skill set is different than becoming a teacher of spirituality, because it's like you can learn something and use it, but until you are actively practicing it deeply daily, and it's your go-to, and if you're not practicing it you can't teach it. That's when, that obviously took place later in life as you grow up, and that was, for me, that work is much more personal and important than just being a psychic.
Yeah, how does it work for you? Because there's different ways that people do this kind of work. Are you receiving impressions through your own intuition? Are you having a conversation with people's higher self? Or how does it work for you?
I don't know where this comes from. At a young age, I understood that it didn't really matter so much the technicality behind it. What mattered was how I utilized it and understanding how to use it. So every situation is completely different. Sometimes I'm deeply channeling, sometimes I'm not, sometimes I'm talking to them, to mine, I don't ask. I recognize energies energetically. Like I can feel a familiar presence, if you will, more than I'm like, what's your name? Who are you working with? It not that there's anything wrong with that. It just was never something that I felt was necessary. I feel like also intuition and channeling is like it's all just coming from source. So I sometimes I hear, sometimes I see, sometimes I feel. I know for some people they can only do it one way, and that's okay. That's their skill set. For me, there's just never been really a boundary, or I've never tied it down to one thing. It's because like if I'm talking to ETs, it's a very different experience than when I'm doing my medical mediumship. It's a different experience if I'm helping someone in a spiritual coaching session. It's all just, what does spirit want me to do? Okay, I do that.
Wow, wonderful. Okay, it's amazing that you were raised in a family where it was encouraged. I think that's huge to have that support. A lot of people don't have a support system when they're awakening spiritually, or maybe when they were young, it got shut down because they were in an environment where that was not acceptable. And so, how wonderful. Or you chose your parents well, maybe.
Well, it's, to be fair, it was one parent.
Okay.
The other parent still isn't sure about me and what my whole thing is, but you only need one. So the one that believed in me, my mom, is, yeah, it changes everything, as we all know, right?
Yeah. And Meg, so because you mentioned doing this sort of paranormal videos, so I'm guessing you were already on a spiritual, or at least open or interested in Beyond the Illusion when Miriam reached out. But I'd love to kind of hear your story and where you're at, if you consider yourself on a spiritual path, or what your thoughts are.
Absolutely, I do. I think even when I was a child, I can feel energies and I would see what, as a child, I saw like ghosts. I would see figures, or I would see someone sitting on my bed. And as I would be in certain places, see things at the corner of my eye, things would move, like just paranormal, interesting things would happen. And it seemed to follow me. And it really ramped up when I started working in healthcare, when probably in my early 20s, when just things would happen, call bells would go off, beds would move. I have a photo of a footprint that appeared in a bed after the lights were flickering, just things like that. And it seemed to follow me. And even my coworkers would make jokes about that. So I just started to tell those stories on TikTok to just, share it and see if anybody else had those stories because I was never fearful of it. It never scared me and never felt like I was in danger. Definitely felt like someone else was there. It was a whole presence, but it never harmed me. It never scared me. And little things still happen where, like, even in this where I'm living now, a chair will move by itself. It's fine.
The way you say that. So like, I was like, oh yeah, chair moved by itself. I would think, yeah, I haven't really thought about it before, but I would think that like a hospital would have a lot of psychic activity going on because of all the drama that's happening. And even if maybe if someone's in a coma, maybe they're out of their body, or all of the angels and the spirit guides are coming and people are praying. And gosh, there must be a lot going on there.
Yeah, there's a lot of life, there's a lot of death, and then there's a lot of people who are like in that in between stage. So there's a lot of energies
Mm.
and things in those types of buildings.
Cool. So I'm curious, I don't know if you guys are able to talk about any of the cases, if you can kind of anonymously talk about any of the cases that you've done.
Oh, we could just leave out names and
Mm.
identifiers, just
Yeah.
like in healthcare, there's all these HIPAA laws about confidentiality. Yeah,
Sure.
there's some really cool stories that we've had where the one girl was having so many different symptoms, like multi-system symptoms. So it wasn't just, oh, my stomach, I'm having GI issues. It wasn't just breathing issues or headaches, neurological issues. It was a combination. So it was really difficult for doctors to figure out what it was, just scan everything and take your blood and test for everything. And she was still having these symptoms. But identifying specifically, Miriam had said a specific gland and a specific organ and how something was leaking. And then we sent her off, go get tested, go test for these things. And her liver enzymes were elevated, just things that other people hadn't thought to check for. And also some personal things for her to deal with and work on and face. And it was pretty amazing to see the transformation of figuring it out and then seeing her life change.
Wonderful. So, do you ever get pushback? Like maybe the wife wants to come and work with you guys, and the husband is like, they're quacks or whatever. I don't know. Do you get anything? Have you had any experience like that?
Yeah.
Yeah, how do you deal with
Yeah.
that?
I think it's more so that people will say they're really interested and then you never hear from them again. We've had people who during the session were in tears and like, you changed my life. I can't believe that. And then you follow up and they're like, no, I think I'm just going to stay the way I am. I'm not ready to make any changes. And we had one woman who, if I remember correctly, she just didn't tell her husband. And that happens a lot where you just don't tell your significant other. And honestly, they don't need to know. Like, if you're just taking care of your body, that's up to you. It's not up to anybody else anyway. And worst case scenario is you get nothing from the session, which we've yet to experience, but that's worst case scenario is nothing happens, you know?
Yeah, I can so relate because I do past life regression and spiritual regression, and people will have these incredible experiences during the session when their left brain is softened and their analytical mind is sort of out of the way. And then when they come back into their full waking consciousness and their left brain is fully activated, they start to just dismiss it all. Oh, I probably just made all of that up. Oh, that
Yeah.
probably is it. And it's a shame. And I've just learned to like, okay, well, maybe later they'll be ready to take, again, sometimes we're just planting seeds.
Hmm.
Because I've had people that discounted it and then later, much
Hmm.
later, came back and really were able to acknowledge it. So I imagine that that happens with you sometimes where you're planting a seed and maybe later. Also, like you're saying, when people, it's like, oh, you're not going to just fix me. I'm going to have to change this or that. Not
Which I
everybody
think
wants that.
Meg sees that. I'm sure Meg can speak to that too. But to speak to what you're saying, as far as too, in my work as a psychic, I'm not a traditional psychic, so I don't read like a typical psychic. But so many times there's that kind of same thing where it's like, I guess so. And then they come back and they're like, oh my God. But you have to have the faith and the confidence to trust that everyone's on their own learning path, right? So it's no different than if a doctor tells you you need to lose weight and you're not ready to do that for another year. And in that moment, you're mad at the doctor, but a year later, you're like, thank God they said that, or whatever that is. Everyone's on their own trajectory to realization and remembering who they are as spiritual beings. And it's not for us to dictate how that happens and when that happens. And for me, for sure, and I can probably bet for both of you guys, the last thing we want to do is stand in the way of someone's path. So we just have faith in our work and in who we are and trust that when they're ready, for their sake, not ours, for their sake, they will find that peace in that memory recall.
Yeah, that's a really good perspective. How did you come to decide this specific focus? I know you said you do some other things too, like some counseling and other kinds of work with people, but again, there's so many different things you could do with your intuitive gifts. What pulled you towards the medical medium aspect?
Honestly, I've been able to kind of form out all of like, I have a strong paranormal area that's working. I have a lot of movement in that field. I have my animal, pet psychic, if you will, type work has a lot of forward movement in it. Like all the different aspects of my work is moving forward. The only one that was, I think, waiting for Nurse Meg was the medical medium side. I was already doing the work, but as long as every time I would do the work, I'd just be like, I'm just giving them half the solution. How is this serving anybody? But I had to wait for the right person to come around and the timing had to be right. And so it was, I always wanted to do it. I just was waiting for Meg, basically.
Because I do past life regression and I do life between lives. And so I know we all have can all have different beliefs, but my perspective is that our souls came in with sort of a lesson plan and also some soul contracts. And I'm just curious if you believe in soul contracts, if you think that the two of you might have come in with this soul contract.
Yeah, I mean, I feel that every being, whether they're animal, plant, or human, we have a contract with on some level, and we've been moving through lifetimes, past lifetimes, future lifetimes together until we graduate from whatever that lesson is. But yes, some relationships are deeper and stronger than others. I mean, for me personally, I can't speak to Meg, but to me, this is a perfect example of a soul-mated relationship. So, yeah, for me, that would be a yes. I mean, let's hope. I feel like we're on a dating app. Meg, do you feel the same way?
Especially when I worked in the ER, I would meet dozens, hundreds of people in a week, and you just kind of flow through. And then there's some people that you make connections with that it just sticks for so long. And you're like, oh, this was meant to be. I was supposed to be here. You were supposed to be here. This is a connection that needs to continue. And I have people that I worked with where I knew on day one, the shift that I worked with them, we were going to be best friends forever. I was just in one girl's wedding who we met on the first day. We became instant best friends. And then as soon as me and Miriam started conversing, it was like, yes, more of this. This was definitely meant to be. And then when we met in person, it was like so easy. I was like, this is like a sister. This is so meant to be.
Oh, yeah. I didn't check this before. Do you live in different places or?
We live on opposite sides of the country.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah,
Except for
I'm
the
in
time
Florida.
difference that must make things sometimes
Yeah.
difficult. But
She wakes up to my texts a lot.
yeah. Wow. Yeah, I just really can imagine little light bulbs going off in people's heads who are listening to this, thinking like, oh, maybe I want to collaborate with someone or co-create with someone and all of the possibilities of how I think. So you're both in the United States, correct?
Mhm.
Yeah.
I mean, I think most people, even though we have this incredible polarization going on and this big divide, I think most of us can agree in our country that our medical system is broken, and our healthcare system is broken, our educational system is broken, our politics is broken, our like all of our systems are broken. And we need people to come in and find new possibilities of moving forward to better serve everyone, to better serve the community, to better serve the collective. And this is like an example of that. And I think because I am aligned with astrology. This is the Aquarian age, and we're meant to collaborate, co-create. We're not meant to compete anymore. We're all going to find new ways to create new possibilities working together. And I think this is such a really cool example of that. What are your thoughts on that?
I do see a huge shift. Even when I started working, 16 years ago, or even more than that in healthcare, it wasn't as much as for the collective. And even with the next generations now coming in and working and becoming doctors and becoming nurses, it feels like there's a huge shift, even just in the energy. Like it used to be that nurses eat their young and the old nurses were mean and you were scared of them. And now there's this very collaborative, like, hey, are you behind? I have a free moment. What can I do for you? It's a totally different atmosphere with these next generations coming in.
Wow.
That's so cool. Yeah. We have this really cool demo that you guys agreed to do where this is really fun because we've not done this on the podcast before, but we have someone who has agreed to share her symptoms of what's going on with her and share her image and kind of get to see how this all works. I'm super excited to see how this all works in action. How does that sound? You guys ready for that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool. And so I'll play the recording that she provided. Shall I pull her photo? I know I just sent the photo to, but if you wanted,
Yeah, pull it up for
okay.
sure. And do you mind giving me her full name?
Oh, can I give you her first name? Okay. So her first name is Kendra, and I'll give you her full name after, if that's okay.
Okay.
And
I know you don't want to reveal her, of course. I totally get that. Or if you want to email it to me
oh,
really quick.
I'm curious to
No?
know how does that, is that like a vibrational thing that you get from their name or?
Yeah, I mean, I read through the pictures and sometimes I need like a first, middle, and last name, but I can work with her first name. And if I need more,
Okay.
we can ask. What did
Okay.
you say her first name was?
Kendra.
Okay.
Okay, let me pull up her photo. Okay, can you guys see her photo? Okay. And then I'm going to play the recording. So here we go.
Hi, so I would say that I'm the kind of person who always has some kind of symptom going on. My husband thinks I'm a hypochondriac, but I do not like doctors, and therefore I tend to look up stuff online and self-diagnose. I like to try to cure symptoms with like tinctures, natural medicine, never pharmaceuticals. And so it's always an ongoing thing of me never actually curing myself of any of the symptoms. I think the most symptoms that I tend to have are headaches. I used to get migraines a lot. I don't get them anymore, but headaches, earaches. I have a tendency for being very sensitive and having reactions to all kinds of things like allergies. I have had psoriasis, just one hand, my left hand, for the past almost 5 years. Sometimes it'll go away and seem like it's healing, and then it'll come back strongly again. I know that I do drink too much coffee, and yeah, just like mostly like flu-like symptoms. Oh, and I have a really hard time losing any weight. I have tried all different kinds of things. I don't know if I just don't stick with one sort of healing regimen long enough, but that and also ongoing on and off fatigue. Yeah, so those are my main symptoms that I experience, and I am trying to figure out myself without any doctor to guide me or health professional. So I get the symptoms pretty much every week. The weight, of course, is an ongoing battle. But, like, for instance, the flu-like symptoms, I wake up at least once a week feeling like that. Sometimes it dissipates midday, and sometimes it carries into the next day where, yeah, or I'll have an earache for one day and then I'll just be gone the next day. So that's how it is weekly. And if I were to rate it of how bad it was on a scale from 1 to 10, I mean, I would just say it feels like when you have the flu. But the thing is, I am not often around people, and so I'm not exposed to germs very frequently, and yet I'll still get symptoms like that. On a scale of 1 to 10, I'd say it can be anywhere from 5 to 7, usually not any worse than that, except the fatigue also weekly, not every day. It just really depends. And the fatigue is usually, when I do get it, pretty, I'd say like a 10, because I'll have to go take a nap or something like that, which I really don't like taking naps because I always feel groggier when I wake up from a nap. But when I'm that tired, I just have to lie down. It feels almost like I'm going into a coma or something.
Okay, so that's the recording.
I'm sorry, I will repeat questions. Kendra was her name? Okay. She has a blockage, but part of that blockage started due to emotional trauma that then started to manifest physically. The blockage feels like it's like down gut, below the gut, like I can't think of the word, Meg. What's below the belly button? And before, like there's the pelvis. Okay, but internal organs behind the pelvis. What's that? Is there any?
Have a little bit of the small intestines, the colon, and then you have the bladder there. And if you're a woman, the uterus in front of it.
There's something that's blocked. So what's interesting is this happened around 5 years old. The blockage was an energetic blockage due to some sort of trauma. It then manifested into physical, but then it's also manifesting in the personality. The personality is rigid, restrictive, and needs to work on being more open and flexible. There's a lot of that just comes from fear-based because of trauma, but the more open and flexible the personality can be to medicine, and I think she knows in other areas of her life where she can be more open and flexible, that's going to help with the physical blockage that's stuck. There's this. And that's also what's happening internally, like refusal to do certain things. And that comes from fear and, like I said, trauma and other places. But if we can work on being more flexible with the personality, that's going to bleed into the physical, that's going to bleed into the energetic, and that's going to then open the door to what this blockage really is. And if it requires medical attention, obviously Meg is going to step in, but this is just what I'm getting for now. If it requires medical attention, then it requires medical attention. The blockage is causing other areas to leak. I want to be able to, the kidney is involved, but also I can't think of the word, but there's an organ that's blocked, specific, that's not functioning properly. It feels like it's around where like the belly button, the pelvis.
Name them off.
Yeah, please.
Gallbladder, large intestine, spleen, pancreas.
Spleen, gallbladder. Keep in mind that one may be reacting off of the other, so I don't know if it's necessarily both, but those two stand out to me. And I keep stressing, like, I don't know if you'll need medical attention because this started from an emotional, energetic place. Learning they just keep talking about being more flexible emotionally, physically, but really more so emotionally, being more flexible, open, accepting. And then that's like a symptom of the blockage. Gallbladder and spleen, and it's emitting something that's causing, I almost feel like it's not a poison in a bad, well, it's obviously not good, but it's not a poison where it's life threatening or anything like that, but it's emitting something that shouldn't be running through the body. basically, and it's like that stuff shouldn't be in there and that can be stopped. Yes. Okay, Meg, you weigh in. Let me see what else I get.
The spleen does release certain antibodies. Antibodies are great. They're proteins that will fight infections, but you can release these when you're in an overall state of stress, you're in an overall state of inflammation. And when we test for overall body inflammation, we test for ANA proteins. That is the specific lab, the ANA. If it's at a really high level, we can determine, okay, you have overall inflammation in your body. For a lot of rheumatoid stuff, we just test for ANA. And if that's high, okay, it's probably idiopathic and something rheumatology that it doesn't have an exact cause that we can see in a scan, but there typically is an emotional cause behind that. So it could be spleen releasing antibodies, those protein antibodies.
That feels right to me.
So then do you typically recommend, she said she doesn't like really to go to the regular doctor, especially you mentioned kind of more emotional, mental mindset things about flexibility. Are there practices that you recommend or modalities or certain types of practitioners?
So meditation is, for me, I teach that as a non-negotiable tool, right? Meditation is the start for everybody. You have to start there, and it has to be daily or twice a day if needed. That's going to relax the mental enough for you to start trusting again and for you to trust that you'll be moved to the next place safely. Whether a friend refers you, whether you come across, you meet someone and they're a doctor and you didn't know they were a doctor, but you just felt safe with them, because you have to release the hold that is there on how things should be, because that's a safety mechanism for you. You have to find yourself in a place of safety, and meditation brings us to this place of, can bring us to this place of safety. Obviously, we want to pair that with therapy if we're dealing with trauma. So we start with therapy. We talk to the therapist how we incorporate meditation in if there's trauma and fear of that coming up. But the more she relaxes the mind, the more she's going to be open to what's next. And that's the reason why I kept saying, I don't know, is like about if she needs medical attention, because she may not, as she relaxes this tightness she has, as she relaxes that through meditation, yoga, therapy, all these things that she does regularly and daily and sticks with them, as she knows, she doesn't stick with them, and that's okay. Everyone struggles with that. But as you stick with them, you're going to start to find that maybe you don't need a medical doctor. Maybe if you're feeling safer with these holistic practitioners, you'll be brought to the right one that can help you, or you'll be brought to a medical doctor that is safe and listens and can absolutely help you. Did that answer the question?
Yeah, absolutely. I want to give a little reveal that that's actually my sister, which is why I didn't want to tell you that, because I didn't want to give you her name and have you like bring anything in about being my sister. But now that you gave that information, I'll just say her name is Kendra Roser, and she gave me permission to say her name if that helps at all. Now, I will say, because I'm her younger sister, that what you said is very spot on. Like she wasn't able to make it, but I can speak for what I know of her. And I know she knows those things about herself as well. And there are things that over the years she's worked on a lot and has made progress, but still struggles with that rigidity and the fear stuff.
That's fair. I was like, God, she looks just like Tiana.
Well, she sounds a lot, although she was kind of talking a little bit softer, but a lot of times if she leaves me a voice message, I'm just like, oh my God, it's creepy. It sounds like me.
That's
Or when
funny.
we laugh, our laugh is like very similar. So I was like, I don't know if they're going to catch that, but I wouldn't have thought that. But
I mean,
yeah.
I go so far to the other side that I wasn't even in a place to connect those dots, even though my brain was. But anyway, I'm sorry, Meg, do you want to? I feel like I've been taking up the whole
No, I'm
conversation here.
doing the whole like triage and then the suggestion, putting it all together in my brain, like the patient's symptoms, the frequency, what you noted, and then what you suggest moving forward. So
You're
do you
able,
want
oh,
me to
yes.
go over it?
Yeah.
Okay. So she was having fatigue, headaches, inability to lose weight, psoriasis, and ear aches. Frequency was almost every day or every week. And then, as you read, her Miriam noted emotional blockage, maybe from even 5 years of age. And now that blockage is causing inflammation in the gut, the spleen could be releasing antibodies that are causing overall inflammation in the body, causing those specific symptoms. Suggested treatment, meditation, learning to be less rigid, less restrictive, more open and flexible, leading with less fear and emotional healing, not necessarily medical attention. Medically, they would probably just give her things for the symptoms, like, oh, you have psoriasis, take steroids
Mm.
or take an anti-inflammatory. It's not
Mm-hmm.
going to fix anything. It'll just maybe make the symptoms less uncomfortable.
I wanted to address really quick, if you don't mind, before I lose this, her psoriasis.
Mm-hmm.
So you said it's on the right, correct?
I can't remember if that's what
I
she
think
said.
she said it was on the
Okay.
right because I know when she said it, it showed me something. The psoriasis is the energy that she's holding tight.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So when she learns to pull energy up from the left, right? Now, I want to stress, and I know you already know this, Tiana, the hesitancy if there's dark trauma there in pulling something up, right? So for the average person, I might say, oh, pull energy up from the left, release it from the right. But if you're dealing with something that has been maybe even addressed and she's aware of it, but it's really painful and it's a form of suffering for her, then obviously, I mean, Tiana, you can guide her through the healthiest way to take this approach. So don't necessarily take it literally if it's too much for her. But the energy coming up through the left, and she's not pushing it out. She's not pushing any energy out. She's absorbing everyone around her from the moment she was an infant, and she's not letting anything go, and everything is like this. And so it's coming out because we release through the right, and she is not releasing anything. And so her hand, it's like her hand is stuck and it's just holding it.
That makes so
Sorry,
much
go ahead.
sense. No, I was just like, oh, that makes so much sense. And I remember some years ago, and she and I talked about this too, when she was wanting to lose weight or whatever. And I kept saying, oh, I feel like it's emotional because you're holding on to all these things and you need to let go of them. And she has done work and she does Kundalini yoga, but like she said, she's not consistent, but she has done work and there's still work to do. But it's always felt like because we are genetically, I don't know, the same. I guess every child is different, but we come from the same background. But then she has these issues that I don't have, but she's always like growing up. And that's what I think is interesting too, as far as like, oh, also what did she come in with as a soul that affected? Because
Yes.
growing up, she was the one that would stay home from school with the ear infection. I was the one that had all through elementary school, perfect attendance, never got sick and so forth. And she would have different issues on and on. I can remember that I didn't have. And so I always, before I was on the spiritual path, just thought that, oh, how does that work?
So I agree that if there's nothing specific in this life, then obviously we have to go into past lives that she clearly brought this in with her then. But Kundalini yoga, lifesaver for me. I cannot stress that enough. But she stopped doing it because as it starts to open things up, she shuts it down. She doesn't want to go there. And I think one of the things that is so beautiful about chanting specifically versus just a quiet meditation or even a guided meditation, because I know Kundalini, they do the chanting, and I'm going to give you, which I'll send you a link to Guru Singh, who she may actually use. But Guru Singh now has his own app. And so on that app has all kinds of chants, classes, like she can access whenever she wants. She can stop it. She can, like, she doesn't have to go like live to a class, which can help because sometimes with Kundalini, you just need small doses and you want to feel empowered to like, I need to turn it off now. And if she can commit herself to say, the next 6 months, even if she only does 3 minutes a day, because that day she's just wanting to not do it, but okay, I'll do 3 minutes, but she can give herself that commitment. When it starts to come up, this is the beauty of chanting and Kundalini yoga that I have found is you don't necessarily have to talk it out. She may just find herself sobbing and then it's over. And you don't have to ask, what was that? Where did that come from? Just It's done. You don't have to address it. You don't have to talk about it. You don't have to tell anybody. You can just process it. So I feel like she's on the path, then she jumps off, then she's on, then she jumps off.
Mhm.
And that's okay. I mean, we all, right? We were just talking about timing for everyone. But she's so close. And I think her physical body is just constantly saying, you're ready. It's okay. Just go for it.
It's beautiful. Yeah. Yeah. And I love what she said, even if it's just like 3 minutes a day, because that's something
Mm-hmm.
my own spirit guides told me where I like had kind of stopped doing meditation for a little while because I was like, I don't have time. And they're like, you just need to do a few minutes every day. And yeah, making it not like all or nothing, but it can be just little bites, but
Mm-hmm.
consistency is very important. Yeah.
Because the more you meditate, even if it's just small amounts, two things happen. More time is created because you are more thoughtful with your choices and actions. And so you're getting more done. Second, when you are having a super hard day, if you have a daily practice, if you in the middle of the day, or even if you're out in public or at work, if you need to go sit on the toilet, pop in earbuds and sit for 60 seconds by yourself, your body will recognize that and go into that state of balance because it's trained in you like an athlete. And so it's not about how long you do it. It's about training the body to recognize it. And once it recognizes it, you can pop in and out of that whenever you need it throughout the day.
Wonderful. That's amazing. So, as we're wrapping things up, I kind of was just wondering if maybe there is something that we haven't touched on, something, a message that you want other people to know about what you do or about their bodies or about, medical mediumship or anything like that.
If you're not getting answers in all of the traditional ways that people seek answers for their physical symptoms, keep going, keep looking, and maybe the answer is outside of your particular doctor. But keep going. Don't think that you're just stuck where you are and just give up. Please keep seeking answers and email me.
Yeah, we'll get your information and just that's a beautiful point. And I can't tell you how many times, because I'm also an energy healer and and a hypnotherapist, people will come to me as a last resort and I'll ask them kind of more background about their life and kind of understand what they've been challenging through. And people will have tried all of the like physiological modalities and they changed the way they eat and watched their sleeping and went to all of these different practitioners, but then never ever did any emotional work or something.
Mm-hmm.
So many times people didn't see the connection between their loved one passing away 5 years ago and the
Mm-hmm.
onset of their medical issue 5 years ago or things like that. So I love that you brought that up. Thank you. Miriam, what would you like to share?
Oh, I feel like I've said too much already. I
Never
would
too
just like
much.
to, I would just like to second what Nurse Meg said, and I think encourage people who are scared of doctors. It's a matter of just finding the right one. Just like in any field, you have bad attorneys, you have bad teachers, you have bad babysitters. It's not specific to the medical community. There are some great doctors out there, and collaborating with science and spirit, as Meg and I say, I think it is a life changer.
Yeah, I think especially piggybacking on that nowadays because of technology and telehealth, right? There might be people like my sister lives out in the middle of nowhere. She lives a very hermited life on purpose. Like she said, she doesn't have
Mhm.
that much contact with other people on purpose. But even if there's not someone in your area that is open to these things, really now with telehealth, you have kind of the whole world available to you to find the right person and still work with someone in the
It's
medical
very
field.
true. Absolutely.
Wonderful. Wow, this has been so interesting. I love having you guys on. I'm so excited. I just feel that there is this like revolution in all these old industries and old ways of being. They are beginning to shift and become more holistic and merged with spirituality. And it's really cool to see. How can people contact you?
The best way is to, if they want to share their story or talk to us or contact us, is to email me at support@nursemegrn.com. And then if they want to find me on social media or anything like that, I do have a website, nursemegrn.com, and then just Nurse Meg RN on all of the social media platforms.
Beautiful. Miriam?
And for me, it's Maryam Faresh on all the social media platforms. But yeah, reach out to Nurse Meg if you need help with anything. And we're actually launching our own live show on YouTube off of both of our pages, July 10th, where we'll be taking questions that you can submit prior or submit that night in the comments. You are welcome to submit any, like a video of what's going on with you, and we may use it for the show to answer questions. So we offer two forms of healing. One is if you can afford to see us, then we will set your fee, and your session basically goes as long as it's needed to go. And if money is an issue for you, then our Thursday night, 5 o'clock Pacific Standard Time on YouTube would be a place to submit a question or to email Nurse Meg what's going on with you and see if we can help you on the show.
Oh, that's so cool. I love that you have both of those options available for people. So the people that want more privacy and more time and attention can have your private service, and the people who are okay putting themselves out there more in exchange for getting to receive your services for free and help other people can take that option. So how wonderful. Thank you so much for being on the podcast.
Thank you.
Yeah, you were so spot on with my sister. She's gonna love it. She knows these issues, but it's going to be really helpful that somebody who doesn't know her at all picked up on it and is telling her how this is the reason why you have this health stuff. So that'll hopefully push her to really take the next step.
I love what you're doing. Thank you for having us on.
Yeah, it was super fun. Yeah, I loved it. Okay, thanks so much, ladies. Have
Okay,
a
nice
wonderful
meeting
weekend.
you.
Yeah, you too.
Bye.